Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you how to perform auto-generated ID in MongoDB database with the help of Spring Boot. So let's get started. So first thing, many of you would be thinking this can be done by a simple annotation, right? For example, when we use Spring Boot with MySQL, we'll be having that generated value annotation, which itself will give us auto-generated ID. But the thing is that when we are using MongoDB database with Spring Boot, we cannot use generated value annotation. So for this, we need to create a separate table that will have the ID count. So let me explain you how we are going to do this. Okay. So first let me go to my whiteboard. So at first we will be having our normal collection or table. So in my case, I'll be having a table named student, and in this only I'll be inserting the student's name, address and marks, everything. And in this table named student, I'll be having a column named ID, and this ID's column value needs to get auto incremented. So for this, what we will be doing is we will be creating another table also called as the counter table or collection. So in this counter table, we will be having two values or two columns, which is going to be a string and it's going to be ID. And for this string, we can have any random value, or we can even have specific to a particular table. For example, student counter, like that. So we can have anything over here, but for this ID, the value is going to be determined by the insert operation. For example, every time we insert a new value inside the student table, we will be incrementing the ID value over here. So by this way, we will be able to have a counter that gets auto incremented. And another good thing is that, for example, let's suppose say that if we delete any record from our student table, this won't affect our counter table. For example, imagine the ID value in the counter table to be 4, and we are having 4 records in the student table. So let's suppose that I'm deleting a record from student table, so the count will be 3 over here, and if I don't have this counter table, the next ID will be inserted as 4. But that shouldn't happen, right? Because we deleted 4, so obviously the ID needs to be 5. So we need to have a proof that 4 has been deleted. But when we use the counter table, we won't be deleting or decrementing the ID over here. So we will be having the ID 4, and if you are going to insert any new value in the student table, it will get assigned the next value of 4, which is 5. So it will be like 1, 2, 3, 4 is deleted, and we'll be having 5. So we have a proof that the ID 4 has been removed earlier. So by this way, we will be able to maintain the auto incremented count, as well as we will be able to keep a track of the deleted IDs. I hope this made sense. So now let's see how we can implement this. So first I will be showing you how to connect MongoDB with Spring Boot as well as the post operation. But if you have already those things set up, you can just directly go to the timestamp that is appearing on top. So first thing, just go to your browser and search for Spring Initializer. You'll be getting the first link, start.spring.io. Just select that. And this is going to contain our entire Spring Boot project, and we are going to configure the necessary dependencies and as well the Java version over here. So first thing, project is going to be Gradle and Groovy. If you want Maven, you can choose that, but I am comfortable with Gradle. And next one is going to be language. I will choose Java, and I will leave it with a default Spring Boot version. And here we need to change the name of our project. Okay, we will be having this project metadata. So I'll just change the name as Mongo Spring, and you can change the name whatever you want. So I'll just copy this, and I'll just change the group name, also the artifact name. So now we are done, and next is going to be the packaging. jar is fine for me, and the Java version is going to be 17. So just leave it the default. Well, the only thing that we changed over here is the name. That's it. We didn't touch anything other than that. And next is going to be the dependencies. So for this, we will be using the Spring Web dependency, okay, because we are going to have some API calls, okay. So for that, we will be using Spring Web, this one. And for connecting with MongoDB database, we need to use the MongoDB driver. So that's the dependency name. So just search for Mongo. You'll be having this Spring Data MongoDB, not the reactive one. Just go with Spring Data MongoDB. And finally, I would also like you to add Lombok. So in case if you are having a class, we will be having a getter, setter, and we need to initialize with constructors. We can just avoid everything. So as it says, Java annotation library, which helps to reduce boilerplate code. So if you just use Lombok, it saves us a lot of time in reducing our boilerplate getter, setters, and code. Just add this also. So these are the 3 dependencies, and these are the settings that I have had for my Spring Boot project. So once you're done good with this, you need to just click on generate, and it will get downloaded as a zip file. Alright, so just go to your downloads folder. You'll be having the zip file of our entire Spring Boot project downloaded. Just right click and just extract files. Okay, so I'm just extracting in my downloads folder itself. In case if you want to be in a better location, you can just cut this and paste it in any other folder that you want. That's totally up to you. So if I go inside this folder, we will be having our source and our Java files over here. So the prerequisites for running this project is going to be, you must have MongoDB Compass installed, and also you must have both Java and IntelliJ installed on your system. And in case if you don't have Java and IntelliJ installed, you can just click on the card that is appearing on top. I have done an entire tutorial on that. So now we are good to go. Just open IntelliJ IDEA. I hope you have this editor. So once you're done opening, you need to just click on the top. You need to go to open, and you need to go to the location where you have your extracted file, basically this project. Okay, you need to go to the location where you have this thing. Here it is. And another important thing, you'll be having this Mongo Spring, alright, and inside that you'll be having another folder named as Mongo Spring. So I would recommend you to open the inner Mongo Spring folder, okay, not the parent one. You'll be having the subfolder. So just select the subfolder and click on OK. Trust project, this window. Yeah, so basically here you can see, right, this is the main parent folder. I'm not having any other Mongo Spring or subfolder, but here in this case, here you can see, right, we had a subfolder over here. So we have like two Mongo Spring over here, but just open the inner folder in your IntelliJ IDEA. I hope that made sense. So now we are inside our project, and this is the folder structure. If I go inside source, main, Java, and this is our main Spring Boot application, and initially it will take some time for the Gradle to build and your project to load. So just be patient till then. And you need to also configure your Java. It will automatically ask you setup SDK over here. You need to just select that, and you need to just select your Java JDK. It will automatically get configured over there in case if you are opening for the first time. So after this, you need to just go to this path, source, main, Java, and you need to go to Mongo Spring application. This is the starting point of your Spring Boot application. So now we are good. We have successfully set up our Spring Boot application. Next thing is we need to begin coding. So the first file that we are going to create is the model. So whatever may be the Spring Boot application or project, we will be requiring some files. So one is going to be the model, next one is going to be the repository, next one is going to be the controller, and the final one is going to be service. So let me just create the folders at first so that it makes our code look clean. So just go to this particular folder, okay, com dot your project name, and you need to right click this, you need to select new, and you need to select package. So here I'm going to type model at first. Alright, just don't mess around with the existing text, just type your model, that's it, and we'll be getting the model folder over here. So first thing, let me explain what is a model. So in our MongoDB Compass, data will be stored as key and value pairs. So this is an example how our data will be stored inside our MongoDB table. So our model will basically have the key name, that's it. So in case if you are creating a model which is going to be just a Java class, it will have name, mark, and age as the data members or variables inside that. So I hope this made sense. Let me just now create you a model. So after this, just right click this model, just click on new, we need to select Java class, and the name that we are going to give here is going to be the collection or table name inside our MongoDB Compass. So I will just give the name here as student, okay, that's it, and I'll just click on class, just hit enter. That's it, we will be getting the student class, and as I told you, we will be having the key names as variables or data members for this particular student class. So it's going to be private, and the data type of roll number is going to be integer, it's going to be roll number, and next one is going to be name. You can choose whatever you want. I will just go with name is going to be of type string, and next is going to be private string address, something like this. You can have these things. Next is we will be annotating this particular class. So the first annotation that we are going to add is document, and don't worry about this no usages thing. This is just an indication where we are using our class. So I thought this was a text at first, so you can't remove this. So first annotation is going to be document. So just go to the above line where you have your class. So it's going to be at, just type D, you will be getting document. Hit enter, it will automatically come here above your class name. So this is the indication that we give to Spring Boot that this is going to be our document or table name in our MongoDB compass. And as I told you, next annotation is going to be data, and this is from Lombok, and this reduces the use of having those getters, setters, constructors, initializing the value, all those things. Okay, and along with that we will be having this no args constructor and all logs constructor. This is basically for initializing this value. So this is it. And the final annotation is going to be for our integer roll number. So I'll just go here like to the top, and it's going to be at capital ID. Alright, this proves that our integer roll number is a primary key, like this is going to be unique. So that's it. Now we are good with the class, and next is going to be the repository file. So this repository file basically links our student class with our MongoDB compass. So only with the help of the object of the repository we will be able to insert or fetch values from our MongoDB compass. So I'll just explain you in a minute what is a repository. So for that, first create a new file. So same thing, just click on your project name and go to new package, just have it as repository. Alright, and this repository is going to be an interface and not a class. So right click repository, new Java class, and this is going to be of the name student repo. You can name whatever you want, and this is going to be an interface. So here you can see we are having interface student repo, and we will be extending the Mongo repository, which is a keyword indicating that this is a repository. So it's going to be extends, we'll be having this Mongo repository, and this Mongo repository takes two parameters. Alright, because we have just created a repository over here, we haven't linked it with the class name. So we're having this class. How will this repository know that this repository corresponds to this class? So we need to name this student over here, right? We need to pass it as an argument for this. So it's going to be the first parameter over here is going to be the class name, is going to be student, basically the class name that we have created over here. And the next parameter is going to be the data type of our primary key in this class. So our primary key over here is integer, so we need to have here integer. So if your primary key, let's suppose for example I'm having name as a primary key, which no one does, you need to have the value as string, because name is having of type string. If this is a primary key, you need to have here string. I'm having here integer because my primary key over here is integer denoted by this annotation ID. So now we are good, we are done with our repository. Final thing is our controller, and this is a place where we specify our URI. So basically this path, if you know, like if you are using this Postman and stuff, we will be having this path localhost and slash. We will be having our custom paths for so many operations like this, and controller is the place where we will be creating and adding the functionality to these paths. You can also do that with a service, but in this video, since I'm going to show a minimal demo, I'll be just writing the entire logic within the controller folder itself. So same thing, just go to your project, new, it's going to be package, I will name it as controller, and inside the controller folder, new Java class, it's going to be main controller. That's it. Now we are done creating our controller class, and this will also have an annotation denoting that this is a place where we'll be defining our URI and path. So for that we need to have the REST controller annotation. This is where we will be defining our API paths. So first thing, let me just show you a simple function that helps us to post data inside our MongoDB compass. Okay, simple one. This is going to be a function, all right. So it's going to be public void. I'm not going to return anything from this function. It's going to be add student, and I'll just open the curly bracket. So first annotation that we are going to use here is the post mapping. All right, post mapping. So this basically means that we are posting data or inserting data in our MongoDB compass. So if I send some data from Postman, that will be received by this post mapping function, and it will insert inside our MongoDB compass. So let me define the path. So just open circular bracket slash add student. So if I hit this path, if I go to my Postman and have here add student and hit this, basically this path will be triggered, and this function and the code inside this will be getting executed. I hope that made sense. And now we need to find a way how we can send the data from Postman, and we need to cache the data and save it in our MongoDB. So for example, just imagine this is my data. All right, so I'll just go to my Postman, and this is going to be my path. This is going to be of type post, and it's going to be body, and it's going to be of type JSON. I'm having this. Okay, I will explain this clearly later. Okay, I'm just doing this as a demo purpose. So imagine I'm having this data at the moment, and I'm just clicking on send. So this is going to be add student. Okay, so just imagine this, I'm clicking on send. So this data needs to get stored in our MongoDB compass. So we need to have a way so that we can cache this data. So imagine this data will be similar to this one, okay, student thing. So we will be having here name, roll number, and address. So just have this as, copy this, and this is going to be like address, and this is going to be roll number. All right, so just imagine this way, we will be having the exact same parameters that we are sending over here, and that will match with our class. So we need to find a way how we can catch this data, okay, these data by this function. All right, so for that we will be using the request body annotation. So it's going to be at request body, and we need to specify the model name. So this is where the model name comes in handy. We will be having the student, right? So it's going to be of type student, and we need to create a variable of that class student. So the reason why we are using here student is because the student has 3 variables, and the data that we are sending also has 3 JSON. So that's why we are basically mapping this JSON to this particular class student, and we are doing that with the help of this request body annotation. So this student variable or object will have this data if you hit on send now, if you are hitting this particular path. All right, so now we have got the data. The final thing that we need to do is we need to save this particular data. So for that we will be using the repository. So remember what I told you about repository. Repository is used to store or insert or fetch data from our MongoDB compass. So we will be using this particular variable present inside repository. So it's going to be student repo. We'll be creating an object of that. It's going to be student repo, and we need to also add the auto wired annotation for this, because like we are using this student repo class and we're creating an object in some other file. So for that we need to have this auto wired, so that it acts as a dependency injection. So I'll just have this auto wired thing. So this is fine now, and final thing, we will be using that student repo variable inside our function. So it's going to be something like the student repo dot, we will be having the save thing, and inside this save we will be passing our variable name student. So I'll just put student over here. So this is now fine, and final thing, the most important thing is we didn't add any configuration. All right, so we need to like link our project with our database. So for that, first go to your MongoDB compass, okay, and don't make any changes in your connection. Just have it like this, because if you make any other changes over here, you need to also replicate those changes in our Spring Boot also. Just have this the same way, don't touch here. In case if you are like working in a production code, maybe you can just change this everything, but we are just doing it locally. So just have this, don't change this URI or something. Just copy this and have it in your notepad. We may use this later, and just click on connect. Yeah, so now I'm connected with my MongoDB compass locally. So after this, you need to just go to the folder called resources. We'll be having main. Under that, we'll be having another folder called as resources. Just click that, and we'll be having this application.properties file. Just select that. So this will be empty at first, and here we will be specifying the port number and the path of our MongoDB compass. So it's going to be server dot port. Let me give it as 8081, and next one is going to be spring dot data dot mongodb dot uri equal to, and here we need to specify the path that we copied. We need to just copy this, and be careful with the spelling, okay? You need to be super careful there. You need to just place this, and here you need to specify the database name. So you can specify existing database name, or if you just give here a new database name, it will get automatically added over here. So for example, let me go with Mongo Spring like this. So this database is not currently available in my compass, so it will get automatically created as I run the program. So I think we are good now. We are done with most of the part. Yeah, this is fine. Everything is fine. So for running this, what you need to do is you need to go to Java, same your Mongo Spring application, that is the main application file, and you'll be having this run icon automatically. So you need to just click on this run, and you need to just click run application main, and we'll be having this application. And if you want to edit the configuration, you can do some changes over here. This is totally up to you. By default, it will get automatically filled up once you configure your Java. Alright, so you don't need to like worry about these things. It will automatically run. So if I just now scroll, so here you can see Tomcat started on port 8081. The reason why it's starting on 8081 is because here we have specified in our application.properties as 8081. So let me just now clear this. So now we are good. We don't just now insert some data. So let's see how we can do that. I will just go to my main controller. Alright, so this is our path, and if we hit this path and send the student data, it will get automatically saved for us, and the data will be coming in our MongoDB database. So for this, let me go to Postman and just click on plus. I'll be getting a new workspace, and the operation that we are going to perform is post mapping. Okay, so you need to change the operation here to post, and you need to have this path. Alright, http colon / localhost colon your port number that you have specified in application.properties. So I'm having here perfectly as 8081. This is good. Till this, it's fine. It's not HTTPS, and this port number is going to be this port number that you have specified over here. And after this, you need to make sure that you're changing the operation, because here we are performing post, and you need to copy the path, and you need to just paste it after this slash. Alright, and the next important thing is we need to send some data. So we are actually getting a model student, and this model student contains roll number, name, and address. So we need to send a JSON with these 3 keys. And for that, let me go to body, and inside body we'll be having none. Select raw and change the text to JSON. So you need to be super careful. Even if you mess around with any one of these, even if you have this as text or JavaScript, you won't be getting the output. Make sure that you change that to JSON, and open curly bracket, and you need to specify the key name. So let me just copy this. Basically, I'll just copy this and paste it, and I'll just remove this private integer thing. Yeah, I'll just remove these things. So this is how it should look. You need to have your key names inside double quotes, and you need to also have the value inside double quotes if it is of type string. So in our case, roll number, we give the roll number type as integer. So since it is of type integer, I'm not giving any double quotes for roll number, but name and address is of type string, so I'm specifying that within double quotes. And that's it. Now we are good. And just look at the database names. We are not having our Mongo Spring database. Alright, so once I hit this send, we will be having our Mongo Spring database, and inside that we'll be having a table or collection name student. Okay, we will be having those things. So I'll just click on send. Alright, so this is done. We are getting 200. Okay, and we are also getting some logs completed. We are not having any errors. And if I go to my compass, and if I just now refresh, Here you can see I'm having Mongo Spring, and if I open this, I'm having a collection named student. So as I clearly told you, this class name is going to be your collection name. And if I just go inside this, here you can see I'm having the ID, name and address that we sent over here, and this is like auto generated value. You don't need to worry about this. And the final thing that I want to show you is, in case if you want to connect to an existing database, so what if I want my student collection to be created inside this new DB, which is an existing database? So in that case, you can just go to your application.properties and remove this Mongo Spring, and you need to just give here new DB, which is my existing database, and you need to just rerun it. Okay, and that's a super important thing. If you are going to do any changes, you need to click on this stop and rerun, okay, so that the application get restarted and your changes are also getting affected. So this is good. Yeah, application restarted. So I'll just clear all. I'll go to this and I'll just change the number to something like this, and yeah, let this be fine. I'll just click on send 200, and this time if I refresh this, here you can see I'm having student inside my new DB, and here you can see I'm also having the latest data that I sent. So now we are done with the post operation and the connection. So now let's see how we can add the auto generated ID to this operation. So for this, we are just having the code ready for us. Okay, just go to Google and type Baildung auto increment MongoDB. You'll be getting the first link there. Just click this, and we will be having a step-by-step procedure how we can do this. So it's just copy paste. So only thing is that you need to have a ready-made collection and your own table now, which we already have done it. So first thing is the dependencies. We are good with the dependencies. No need to worry about that. The next thing is going to be collection. So as I told you earlier, we will be having a separate table for our counter. Okay, so this is the collection that they are having. Database sequence, as I told you there, we will be having a string and a counter variable. So we are having a string and its ID or a counter value. So this is going to be our model for that collection. So what we can do is, let's just copy this, and the name is going to be database sequence. So I'll just go into my model, right click, new Java class. Let's name it as database sequence, and we can just paste it over here, and we can just import this and import this. That's it. Now we are good. Now we are done creating a counter collection. So let's go to the website again. If you scroll down, here it says we need to add a string in our existing table or collection. So for example, they are having a user, but in our case that's going to be the student. Okay, our main collection or table that we are having, and they are asking us to add a string with a transient annotation. So what does transient annotation mean is that we are not including this particular value in our table. So it's just for identification purpose. This value won't be coming in our table or database. So that's the use of this transient. If you want, you can just read about this. So let's just copy this alone because we're already having everything. So let's just go into our student, just paste it, and if you're getting an error, you can just basically retype it. Yeah, this is fine. And rather than having it as user sequence, we can have our own table name. So let me go with student. Okay, so this is fine. Now we are good over here, and we'll be using this to uniquely identify that counter value is for student. Okay, because in our table we can have this counter value for multiple tables. So let's suppose say that I'm having another table for separate different class, student of class A, B, C or something. So they will have their own string and they will have their own counter value. I will also show you that how this works for another table. So to identify which table's string is there, we will be having this transient string that over here. So for each table, this is going to be the unique identifier, and this unique identifier we will be getting the count of that particular table. So I will show you in an example later how this will really work. So now we are done with this. Next thing is scroll down, creating a new record. So I think this is going to be the place where we'll be inserting a new value in our table. So in their case they have used user, in our case it's going to be student, and this is the function that we need to include in our code. And this function basically gets the count from our table and updates it with 1 and gives us the value, and this value is then set with our ID. So that ID is going to be somewhere here, this ID. And this function is quite complex. Let me explain you in a simple term. Okay, so this function gets an argument which is sequence name, and here we are sending user.sequence name. So this corresponds to the transient string variable that we have, this one over here, and this string variable is going to be this string, okay, in the counter table, and that string will have a count for that particular table. So with the help of this string, we will be accessing this ID, and then we will be updating that ID with 1, okay, because it's a count, right? We need to increment that when we are adding a new record. So for example, they would have incremented it by 1. So here is the thing, they are getting the ID with the help of the sequence name, they are getting this ID with the help of the sequence name, and then they are incrementing with 1, and after that they are just sending the counting value. So here you can see counter dot get sequence, this will have the ID, okay, ID or the current counting state, and if that is null, they will be sending 1, which is the first instance, okay. So let's just copy this code, just copy it, and in my case I'm just having the post directly inside my main controller. If you want, you can just have it in a service, okay. So I'll just paste the code over here, and for this we will need to include a few things. For example, we need this Mongo operations, okay. We need to have this one. First is database sequence, just click on import class and make sure that you are having the same name, okay, because if you change the name over here, you need to be also changing the name over here also. And next is going to be the Mongo operations, though this is a inbuilt class, so we don't need to like create it anywhere. So we can just go and type private Mongo operations, and we can just create a object of that, and we need to just auto wire it, okay. So it's going to be auto wired, yeah, that's it. So that error has gone, and next is going to be the query. If you just hover over it, we can just import this thing, hover and import, options, import, and we can also import this. Yeah, I hope I'm importing the right ones there. Import class, and it says create method get sequence in database sequence. So the reason why we are getting is because we haven't added the getters and setters. So for that only, while creating our class student, we will be having this data no args constructor, all args constructor. So we just need to like copy these annotations, and we can just paste it over here. So these are for the getters, setters, the constructor, initializing the value, everything. So now if we go, we won't be getting that error. So simple, that's solved now. And the final thing is going to be this one, which is we need to use this inside our post function, okay. So they're having a variable, and they are just getting this line and setting the ID, and they are just saving it. So this is quite simple. So the only thing is we need to create a empty object like they have done. So let's just go inside our existing post function. It's going to be student equal to new student. We are getting an error over here because we are already getting this student from our postman, okay. So there is a conflict in names, so you can just have it as student temp, something like this, just for temporary purpose, all right. And we are just going to the next line, we're just going to do the exact same thing that they have done. If I go to my student class, and make sure that you are just having this ID annotation for roll number, because this is going to get auto generated, just have the ID annotation. So we're just going to set name and address, this is going to get generated, okay. So it's going to be student temp dot set address, it's going to be student dot get address, and next one is going to be student temp dot set name, it's going to be student dot get name. And rather than saving the student directly, we need to save it as student temp, okay. And the final thing, we can just copy it from here, go here, just copy the set ID thing. In our case, it's going to be set roll number. So let me just do this. It's going to be student temp dot set roll number. They are having a sequence generator service, and they are calling it, but in my case I have just like directly added it inside the controller itself, so we won't be requiring that. It's just directly going to be the function name, and it's going to be student dot sequence name. So let me just remove this. So by student dot sequence name, I am passing this value over there, all right. So this is the value that is getting passed, and if I hover over it, I'm getting required type string provided long. So the reason is because this function returns long, but my roll number is of type string. So for this, I will just change the roll number to long. If you go here, yeah, now I'm not getting any errors, and no errors in my student class also. and final thing is you need to just rerun your application. So in the meanwhile, I will just go to my table and delete all the existing records. Okay, so my application has now started. It's on 8081. Let me just clear this. I'll go to my postman, and the same thing that we did for post earlier, we are just having a postman with body, and we're just sending the name and address over here because the roll number is getting auto generated. Okay, so if I just go here and if I send it, I'm getting 200. And if I go to my MongoDB compass and if I just refresh it, here you can see I'm getting 1. And another thing is, if I just refresh my databases, okay, watch this carefully. If I refresh it, inside new DB I'm not having any database sequence table. Alright, so if I just refresh this, here you can see I'm having that another table called as database sequences. If I go inside this, this is the student sequence. So this is that variable that we used over here. So this variable for this particular class or table will be holding the counting value here. So this is the thing. So if I just go here and if I send it again 2 times, 3 times, 4 times and refresh it, here you can see I'll be getting the ID auto generated. And if I go to database sequences, the count is going to be 5. And if I again go to my student collection and if I delete the ID 5, okay, I'm deleting ID 5, so 5 is removed. But if I insert something now, that ID will be 6, it won't be 5. So if I send it now and if I refresh it, 6. So because of this, we will be able to have a track that 5 has got deleted. So that's the thing about this auto generated ID. It's super useful. And final thing that I wanted to show you is how you can use this exact database sequence counter collection for other tables also. So in our case, we are having only student collection and we are using this. Okay, so what if we want to use this same counter thing for other tables also? So for example, what if we are going to add another table called as student B or student new something, and that also required a auto generated ID. Okay, we can't be creating another table, we can't be creating another counter called as database sequence 2 for that table. We can simply reuse this for multiple number of tables. Okay, that's what I'm going to show you, and I'm going to use the entire same schema also. So for that, let me just go here, model first, new. I will just name it as student B. That's it, student B. And I'll just go to the same student, and basically I will just copy everything. Okay, just copy everything, just go here, paste it, and rather than having it as student underscore sequence, I'll just have it as student B. That's it, student B sequence. I'll rename it this way, and the rest are going to be the same. I will just copy the annotations also, these 4, and just paste it. Yeah, so this is good. And let's just go to the code again and main controller. So I'll just copy the exact same post mapping, go here, paste it, and it's going to be add student B this time, student B, and it's going to be add student B, the function name. And rather than having here student class, we'll be using here student B. Okay, it needs to be student B class. Here also it's going to be student B, and we need to also create a repo. So let me just create it fast. This is the repository that I have created, the class student B, and the type is going to be of long. And also make sure that you're changing it to long over here, because in our case we changed the data type of our primary key to long, right? So make sure that you're changing that. So now let me go to the main controller thing, and if we scroll down, we just need to add the save function. Okay, so for that we need to create this object of that repo. So I'll just copy this, paste it, and it's going to be student B repo, and this is also going to be student B repo, this name, the name of my repo that I'm having over here. So that's the thing. And final thing is we need to save it, and apart from that we also need to make few changes. One thing is, this is not going to be of class student, this is going to be of class student B. We need to have that over here, and same applies here also. This is going to be student B. So this corresponds to, if I go to student B class sequence name, this sequence name. Okay, so it's a different sequence name. So just make sure that you are changing it everything to the new table that you're having. Okay, so I think this is fine. This student corresponds to the value that I'm getting from my postman. So apart from that, everything needs to be student B over here. This can be anything, and now we are good. So final thing is saving it. So it's going to be the repo name, which is student B repo dot with the small s. Okay, student B repo dot save is going to be student temp. So I think I should have given a different name rather than student B. It's quite confusing, but I think you got the point. We're just creating a new table, but using the exact same function and same counter table to create our auto-generated ID for another table. So that's the whole idea. So I'll just stop and rerun it, and the path is going to be slash add student B. So I'll just copy this, and I will go to my Postman. I will just duplicate tab it. So we'll be getting the exact same things over here. Just change this to the new path, and the values are going to be same. So I'll just go here, student BBB, something like this, and address something like this, and let me just now send it. I'm getting 200, and if I go to my compass and if I just refresh it, we will be having just student B, a new collection. If I refresh it, here you can see I'm having a student B. If I go here, my ID is auto generated because I'm not sending here ID from my Postman. And if I go to my database sequences, if I refresh it, go to my database sequences, here you can see I'm having ID as student B sequence, and I'm having the count as 1. So by this way, we can have the count of multiple table ID in a single collection itself. So that's the whole point. So if I again go and send something like twice, if I refresh it, the count will be 3. So this doesn't affect the other table. And if I go to my student B, I'll be having 3. So by using a single counter table that can be accessed to any other collection or table that you're having, you can use that to increment the IDs. All you need to have is a simple function. You can have it in utils or something. And another thing is you just need to change the sequence name. You just need to have a unique sequence name for each table. By this way, you can do auto generated ID for all the tables you have in your MongoDB. So that's the video, guys. I hope you would have found it useful. Do check the playlist of my channel. I've done a lot of data operations in MongoDB, MySQL, Node.js, as well as AI, OpenAI, Gemini tutorials. Check the playlist, subscribe me. Thanks for watching.